Hello YouTube, it's DasGregor, and I'm doing another first impressions on another Gen 2 based distribution. This one is called Ututo. This is an Argentinian distro. It's all in Spanish, and it has been by far the hardest to deal with. I'm doing something a little bit different in this video because, try as I did, I could not install this distribution properly within a partition. And I normally don't like to use VirtualBox to do my distributions in because I don't believe that it gives me a true idea of how well it will install, how well it will respond to the hardware that's in the system, since it's using all virtual drivers, and it's just not a good impression in my opinion. But in this situation, after 6 or 7 attempts at trying to install it, running into all kinds of problems, I just gave up. So here we are with Ututo within VirtualBox inside my Gen 2 partition. So in regards to the ease of install, I say this is one of the hardest ones to install. I don't know if it's because of the language issue, since the language of Argentina is Spanish and most all of this is in Spanish, but even after changing it back to English and setting the keyboard mappings to a US style keyboard, there were still a lot of little pieces of this distribution that are just programmed for a Spanish speaking person. So as for the difficulty of this language or this distribution to install, it might be a little bit easier for a Spanish speaking person to deal with it. All in all though, once it is up and running within the live DVD, it's a pretty nice operating system. It's pretty standard. Nothing out of the ordinary. There are a few widgets that pop up as we see here on the screen. We've got the little CPU monitor, and we've got a little notepad over here. And this is one thing I would like to note, or have you take note. This is something I've not seen in another distribution, and I have looked at a lot of distributions. And as simple as it might be, it did impress me. I thought this was kind of neat. And that's their little application launcher down here. And they are using, I think, a Macintosh style theme for their Windows. And maybe this is a Mac style bar down here because I've not used Macs. I'm not familiar with the OS 10. I've never messed around with that. I mostly work with Linux and different flavors of Linux, and when I have to, a Windows environment. But I've never played around with Mac. So this might be just a Mac toolbar down here, and it is nice. I kind of like how it pops up and makes everything kind of snap. And of course, as you'll notice as I slowly go over these, that everything is in Spanish. But it's easy to look at the icons, figure out what it is, and what you can choose. And it does bring up submenus as you waver over the top of it, highlight the special setting here. Let's see if I can get one of these to do that. I know the one for Office does, the one for Internet does, except for some reason it keeps wanting to pop to the wrong location. There we go. So one thing I want to make note, for instance, is this actually has SeaMonkey on it. I used SeaMonkey years ago from my browser, and I'm kind of surprised that it's still around because I thought it had disappeared, and I thought I was kind of forced into Firefox at one point in time. But it has SeaMonkey, it even has Epiphany, Midori. So a few different browsers to try out within their distribution. I thought that was kind of interesting. And of course it has webcam software, photo software, everything else that you're used to seeing. As you can see on my desktop here, I've got this little bar over here that I use, but it doesn't do any of this fancy stuff where it actually gets large and small, and I may have to look into that. You call me simple-minded, but I think that kind of looks kind of neat. Anyway, as we go on with this distribution, we have just a small toolbar up here and the little widgets. Now the one nice thing is, no matter whether something's in English, Spanish, Russian, German, the icons are usually pretty much the same unless they've kind of done their own specialized icons, and then you're kind of hosed. But in this situation, most of these icons are all the same, and it's not that difficult if you need to switch something over. So if you wanted to try out this operating system and you wanted to set it up for your keyboard and for your language, it's not that difficult to click on their menu, look for the system settings. Of course, in this one it's actually in English, and I'm not sure if that's just because there's not a Spanish translation for it, but if it was in another language that you didn't understand, for instance Cyrillic, there's no way you're going to read Cyrillic unless you're born knowing that style writing or as such. But look for the icon. The wrench is a giveaway, and if we go ahead and open this up, we should be able to get into there and change the language of the KDE system. Now, one thing I also wanted to make mention, when I was working with Ututo last week, when I went to the command line interface, the keyboard was still using a German keyboard, so the keys were in different places. Just like in this one, to do a backspace or forward slash, I had to use my Shift 7 key, which is an ampersand sign for me. After a while, I finally was learning which keys I needed to press to get the symbols that I needed, and it wasn't that difficult. But I found that it's also very easy if you edit the file that's located in your /etc/ I call it conf.d, conf.d, and then edit the locale file and make sure that you change your layout to US from whatever is set there. Now you should be able just to reset your local environment and it should take effect, or a simple reboot will do the same thing, and then you've got your keyboard layout to what you're familiar with. And that goes for if you're needing to change it from US style to German style or to any other location. One thing I have been having a lot of difficulty with this particular flavor is, no matter what I've done within the VirtualBox, things have just run very slow for me. So be patient when I try to do some of this stuff. If it starts taking too much time, I'm just going to move on and forget it. But there's two places that you want to make sure that when you open up a foreign distribution that might not be just right for you, make sure you can get into the preferences or the settings area and look for local. You can see the flag there. That's a dead giveaway that's what you're looking for. And you'll want to open that up, and there's two things you want to change in here. You want to change your country for the country that you're in, and you want to change the language if it's built into there so that it can be your native tongue. That helps out so that you can start to see a lot of the other things that are in the right language for yourself. So in this case, we have country, it's using España, and we want to change that to, for me, North America Inglese, if we can find it. And it is nice that they give you those flags, because the first couple times I was looking for this, I was having a terrible time finding it. So as we look down here, here we go, Estados Unidos de America, and we shall choose that. At least I hope I chose that. As I said, it's very slow. It takes a long time to get some of these things to go through. Just double check there. Anyway, like I said, this has been one of the more frustrating of the distros that I've tried out, because it's been difficult with the language, plus it seems to be a little bit slower on anything that I've done. When I tried to use the DVD ISO, it was terribly sluggish. They do have a USB version, so I did use that, and that made it run a little bit faster, but I was unsuccessful in installing and doing anything else with it. And when an application just wants to run this slow, it's just no fun to play with it. So I've given up on a lot of this stuff. But I wanted to go ahead and show you guys another flavor. And it's interesting, you know, we've gone to Russia, we've gone to Germany, we've gone to Italy, now we're in Argentina. I'm not sure what next week's flavor of the week's going to be, but it'll be interesting to see what country it's from anyway. So in here, of course, for the languages, we choose Inglese Americano. Move that on over to preferred languages. And in any other situation, that would have popped up in 2.4 seconds, but just taking a wee bit of time. Sometimes I keep thinking maybe I didn't press that button. You know, this review would be a lot shorter if things would just go faster. I'm going to try and keep these a little bit shorter than the last one. I apologize, I just never realized that Turox was running into 20 plus minutes, and I kind of noticed I went from 7 minutes to 14 minutes to 20 minutes to 24. It just, each one just seems to get longer and longer. In fact, the first time I tried to record this, it was nearly 30 minutes, and things were just so bad. And then I learned some few tips about the VirtualBox to try and make it faster, and believe me, even though this is going super slow, this is still faster than the way it was. So this is taking a little bit more time than I'd like it to take, so we're just gonna go ahead and I'm afraid if I apply this right here, the last time I did this, 15 minutes later it was still applying things. So for right now, I'm just gonna back out of it and show you the third place that you want to go to make sure that you change things so that it will work better for you. So it's asking me if I want to cancel this or apply it. For now, I'm just going to cancel it to get out. We'll get back to the main menu here, because this is another important thing to think about. Every country has a different style in the way they use their keyboard. Now, you always want to make sure you change this in two different places. Within KDE, there's a place to change it, and then within your configuration files there's another place to change it, so that you can use the keyboard layout that works best for you. Hopefully here it'll get back to the general sessions. I thought I told it to cancel, or maybe I'm not understanding that question here. Maybe this is disregard. See, that's the problem when you're running in with a language that you're just not that familiar with. And that's another struggle that I had with their website. It's all in Spanish, and you can translate it. They have an option to translate to English for myself, but it uses Google to translate, and when it does that, it also messes up the links and things for the downloads. So you have to pretty much find where your downloads are, let it go back to its native language without the translation, so that you can click on the download to get to the links that need to be used so you can make your media. And as you can see, this is just doggedly slow. I'm doing a lot of waiting around. So if that doesn't pop up here in another second or so, I'm just going to give up and move on. Another thing you want to make sure that you do when you get this is it defaults with your screensaver being at 1 minute, and you want to make sure that you disable that or change it, extend it 5, 10 plus minutes, whatever you're comfortable with, because as slow as this system is, and as you're running into things like this right here, I was constantly having problems with the screensaver kicking in, taking up 100. Like right now, it's taking up 100% of my resources, and there's nothing running except for this little menu. And I've set up my VirtualBox to use 4 virtual CPUs, so and 3 gigs of my 6 gigs of RAM. So there should be no excuse for the amount of time and sluggishness that this has. Luckily for the things that I want to show you with these menus down here, yeah, they're running a little bit slower than they ought to, but at least they're running, and you can see them pop up and get into them and all that. Will it ever go down? Like I said, this has been one of the most frustrating flavors to work with. I don't want to say that I call this the problem with the flavor of Linux, but probably just an incompatibility with my hardware. Even though I've tried the 32-bit version and the 64-bit version, I'm just running into all kinds of trouble with it. So down here in the hardware section, and you'll be familiar with this if you're familiar with KDE, you want to make sure you find the keyboard icon here, and that's going to be the one you want to choose, and this is where you're going to be able to set your keyboard location for your own country codes, and hopefully it won't take another forever to open up. Looks like it's trying to open it now. I've enjoyed making these videos. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching them, and I hope to make at least 2 or 3 more. Someday I'll just do a short video about my actual Gen 2 desktop over here, gonna give you a rundown of everything, but that's for another day since I'm trying to do Ututo right now. One thing I was also disappointed in is after I thought I had gotten it completely installed, it was just not acting right, and I rebooted into it and I was having problems right away. It didn't go into the GUI, didn't start up KDE, and I'm used to that. I like command line interface, but I couldn't get it to run either. And when I tried to check out why, most of the drivers for the Xorg system were missing, and also when I tried to emerge anything or check anything, it seemed like my main base operating system was either corrupted or just not working right. So I felt like I was so crippled that there wasn't much more I could do even in the command line interface. It was very distracting. I think I also mentioned that I had trouble with the network driver. It loaded the right driver, but it did not have the firmware needed to run that driver. When that happens, the best thing to do is look into the dmesg, DMESG, when you're at the command line, and look for your network driver. And in this case, it came back and told me that the firmware was not there, and it even told me what the firmware was supposed to be. In my case, it was IWL Wi-Fi, I think that's 6000-4 U code, something like that. I was able to look at my Gen 2 partition in the firmware area, find it, copy it over. You want to remove the module and then re-add it, and once I did that, I was able to configure my wireless and get it to work without too much trouble. So now we're into the keyboard settings, and here's where you're just going to see your simple keyboard stuff. You want to make sure you go into the area where you can actually choose your location, and hopefully I will see that soon so I can show you, because I just want to show you and then I'm going to call it good on this. There's not much more I can say about this other than if you're an English speaker, or I should say a non-Spanish speaker, this is not the OS to try to run. It's kind of neat to see what they've done, and I applaud their attempt, and probably it works great for what they need it to do. And I think it's also great that they have a South American flavor that's unique to them, but it's just a little too difficult for anybody else. So once you're in this area here, distro, I'm not going to even try to say that. You'll see down here that they have Espanol for the keyboard. All you need to do is add your country by clicking on that one, and then the menu will come up. You will find the option for the country you're looking for. You'll want to make sure that you choose it without I mean, I was going through it because it's very seldom I've had to do this, and I was looking for, what do you call the US layout? I mean, we call it a QWERTY keyboard because the first 4 letters or first 5 letters there at the top, QWERTY. Okay, that's first 6 letters, and that's, there we go. First 6 letters anyway. QWERTY keyboard. And I was looking for something like that, and I wasn't finding it anywhere. So in this case, you're looking, you click on there and you go look for, since this is still in Spanish, it's probably Inglés. Look in the distribución. If it pops up, come on, work for me. And here we are, Inglés, and here has the American flag. I don't recognize EE or UU, but it looks like the American flag, and it does say US there. So, and then here we have all of these, and I don't want to choose any of these. I want to leave it as the Predator. I don't know why I'm even trying to say it. Predator. I'm sure there's gonna be some Spanish-speaking person here who is just gonna laugh at me. Well, that dang American, he don't know how to speak the language, and he shouldn't even try it. You're right, I shouldn't. I knew enough German when I lived in Germany to get by. I could get enough of a good accent, but yeah, I just don't know Spanish. So we'll just leave all that, say accept. That should bring us down now with this. We can now move Inglés up to the list once it highlights, if it will ever highlight. There we go. Move it up. Apply. And now we've got United States English keyboard that has the right backspaces, the right dashes, the right keys in the right place. Woohoo! And it only took us probably 15 minutes to get there in this. It is what it is. Anyway, I've noticed in my videos I say 2 words too much. Anyway, and so. So stop counting. I know you're doing it. It's as bad as someone that always says and I've worked so hard not to say those that I've noticed that I'm always saying so and anyway. And I almost said it again. That's all I'm going to say about this distribution. It's been interesting. It's been difficult. It's been a journey. Hopefully next week's distribution is a little bit better. Hopefully you're not too disappointed in it. Whenever you're watching this, I hope you have a good evening, good night, good morning. My time is very late, almost midnight, but that's when I do my best work. And if you tell me if that's your best work, I'd hate to see your worst. Me too. Me too. So until next time, have a great one. Talk to y'all later. Bye.